You're listening to the Business Wealth Impact Podcast, your source for empowering information and cutting-edge ideas from the world's top minds. I'm your host, Jeanne Amlour, founder of seven-figure coaching company, Jeanne Amlour International. Join me on a journey to unleash your potential and create your highest success. Welcome to Business Wealth Impact. Hello and welcome to another wonderful episode. Today we have George Wright III. George is an entrepreneur and media strategist who helps leaders build authority-driven brands, scale their businesses, and achieve lasting success through proven frameworks, high-impact storytelling, and decades of industry experience. Welcome, George.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm really excited for our discussion.
Yeah, me too, because we've had some, other discussions before. And what I was really excited about was the way that you can help people with being the go-to expert with your authority formula. So let's start unpacking that a bit, please.
Yeah, I love this because I've been building brands, big global brands for 30 years, and it's never been more needed to create authority because the marketplace is so crowded. It's so hard to get visible. It's really hard to stand out because of AI. Everybody sounds like an expert, and influencers gobble up all the attention. So over the last 30 years, I've developed a formula that we use for our clients and for big brands around the world. And it's a 4-step formula to grow authority and get visibility, not just get seen, but grow your authority. And it's 4 steps. So I'll tell you the 4 steps, and then if you want to break them down, we can. We start with strategy. Strategy is the blueprint you use to control the narrative. It's not just about getting featured on media. You got to control the narrative. After you have strategy, number 2, you go to authority. Now, nowadays, authority has to be multi-platform and legacy. So you want things like podcasts, magazines, blogs, YouTube. Once you have that authority, the 3rd step is using technology to actually get automations and content capture and convert leads. Because if you do authority and you're everywhere and you can't actually get something out of it, you don't get an ROI. And then the 4th step is distribution and marketing. That's when you can go out and promote your brand. But without all 4 of those steps, you're just out there getting attention. You might be doing things, but not getting anything from it. So those 4 steps are really the most important process that we use.
Okay, so how can anybody start doing this? You're saying they should be on YouTube, they should get on podcasts, they should start a podcast, they should blog. Are blogs still that big? Do people still read blogs?
They are. Now, that's a little bit of a rabbit hole to go down, but, search is still there, right? It used to be keywords, titles, things like that. It's not so much anymore. It's more about AEO now because we all know it's not search-based, it's question and answer based. That's why AI shows up at the top of the search engines. And AI is looking for something different. It's not looking for keywords, titles, and things like and metadata. It's looking for multi-platform. It's looking for quotation, like you're being referenced and featured in things. It's looking for all those things. So you have to take into consideration AI and search. But how does anybody get started? Look, anybody can go out there and get attention. But to get the right attention, you have to do it strategically. So podcasts are an amazing way to do it. But I always say, I have 1,200 episodes on my podcast. I used to do it just because I love it. Now I do it very strategically. So when I do a video podcast, I make sure that one podcast gets carved up in automatically to a podcast, which is syndicated, a blog, which is SEO optimized on my site, a YouTube video owned by Google, searched, right? And then put into magazine articles. So my 1 hour, I tell my clients, with strategy, 1 hour, you can get seen by 1 million people. Because that 1 hour, if it's put together right, you go through the 4 steps. You got a little strategy. And then number 2, you do your podcast episode. Then you use automation to turn it into a blog podcast. So most people, they got a person writing blogs, they got somebody doing their social media, they do this and that. I do 1 episode on a podcast. It's automatically my blog, YouTube, magazine, and podcast. Reels come out of it for social media. My team automatically pushes it through ads, and it's pushed to millions of people. So it's really simple if you could just start conversations. And the strategy part is if you know what you do and how you do it, you start having those conversations. And if you have it on video, it can turn into all these things. So you don't need to have a studio. You don't need to have, all kinds of funnels and websites. You just have to be able to have a conversation about what you're an expert or you're good at and then know what to do with it. That's the
Mm.
key.
Okay, so the piece I'm missing is we are not, we do have our producers with the show and we're disseminating it everywhere, but we are not automating it. And that's what you're saying that you do, right?
Yeah, so we have a team. So, that when you get big enough, you can have a team, you can really go deep
Mm.
on this. But even if you don't, you can use tools like, for example, Descript.
Mhm.
Descript is a software program that's like, I don't know, it's like 40, $50 a month. You can record a video just on Zoom. You don't
Mhm.
even Zoom, Riverside, whatever.
Mhm.
You take that video and drag it into Descript. Descript automatically transcribes it.
Mhm.
It will automatically create a blog article for you. It could automatically cut up reels. It could automatically add bumpers for your YouTube. So the
Mhm.
average person can output these things automatically.
Mm.
But you just need to know what you're doing, right? If you know that you're going to do a podcast, do it on video. And
Mm.
when you get done, the transcript can be fed into AI to create an
Mm.
article. And then as you get more optimized, you'll do more important things like put backlinks in it,
Of
put your
course.
name in the title and the things that you need to do. But just getting multiple platform things out. So I always like to do one thing, but get lots of benefit
For
from it,
sure.
not just
Yeah.
one thing, right?
Mhm.
So that's what I recommend. And there are tools that anyone can use to do that. And as you start to convert and optimize and get revenue from it, then you invest in going deeper in it. You get better quality
Mm.
snippets and reels. You optimize it a little bit more, but just getting it out there, it'll get recognized and picked up.
Mm. Because, getting stuff onto your website, you have to then, I guess you're just saying just get it on, but you can go and edit it at that point and do the alt tags and all that, which is tedious. Okay, so, but I'm
Yeah, well,
guessing
most people just don't even do all
they
that, right?
don't.
But if you
No, we
did that,
don't.
it makes
But
sense.
you could get an AI agent. I mean, then we're going into way down the
Yeah,
rabbit hole of getting AI agents
sure.
to go in and do that, which actually I want to get done soon. Okay, so that's Mhm. Right, if you know how to do that, because a lot of people are struggling with activating AI, but that's another whole conversation. Okay, so how do we become that's awesome. That's not gonna make us the go-to expert disseminating a bunch of information because there's a bunch of information out there. Agreed?
Correct.
How
Yeah,
do
there's
we
tons of free info.
Right. So, and in fact, there's just too much information. I think that people aren't even consuming it anymore. So much so that when people says, "Hey, can I send you my book?" I'm please don't.
Yeah, right,
Sometimes I'm like,
right.
"Oh, I want to be really strategic about my time." So, how do we become the go-to expert? We always talk about that, the go-to expert in your niche, right? Apart from this I don't have to make you the go-to expert. What are the other things that people need to do?
Well, I think it's really important to note here because no matter what level you're at, most people are out there doing content. They're doing stuff. They're getting, in articles or getting quoted, but they don't realize you got to step back and really get the strategy down. And the two things I really think are super important is you've questions, they want to ask you. You've got to get consistent with answering questions that clarify who you are and what you do, but also answer questions of things that your audience is thinking about. When they start to see value of what you do, but consistent messaging, that's when you become the expert. Otherwise, you're just really visible everywhere. So when
Mm,
you're consistent is getting featured. Now, let me
mm.
explain what I mean by that. Most people, you could go get in Forbes, USA Today,
You
LinkedIn, whatever you
you
want.
can just pay.
That's a logo.
Yeah.
That's just a logo. You can
Mhm.
pay. But when you get featured in an article, they're casting the spotlight on you and you are talking about what you want to talk about. And there's ways to get featured, but it's more important than being featured. To be the authority, you've got to be featured frequently. And when you have a strategy, you get featured predictably. So if you go get
Mm,
interviewed in Entrepreneur Magazine, you don't know when it's going to get released and you don't even know what they're going to say from your interview. But when you know what to do, you get featured frequently, and then you know when it's going to be released, you can plan it around your marketing. So that's why it's important to get featured and spotlighted in the right places.
mm,
It's not just about having logos by your name because everybody can have that now.
mm,
But the key is consistency. And that's why I always say create that core pillar piece of content and do something with it. It's
mm,
not just about nobody remembers what you did on social media last week.
mm-mm,
It's got to be put in legacy content. The reason YouTube videos, blogs,
mm,
and those things get and even podcasts get listened to over and over and over. They build up all this volume is because they're things that show up in search and constantly get, 5 years from now, this episode you have on your podcast is still going to be getting listens. It's got to be legacy content. It can't just be social media visibility.
Okay, let's talk about quality. You just said it. Anyone can get those little logos on their website and nobody's impressed anymore. We were impressed 10 years ago till everybody realized that that just meant that they got listed on the Yahoo site, right? And they could put it, or the, NBC or whatever.
Yeah.
So nobody cares. And I'm surprised that people are still putting those logos on their websites, because anybody that knows anything, it just goes, oh, brother, right? It's
Yeah.
almost a disservice, because it almost feels like you're trying to trick people that you have authority that is anybody can have.
Yes.
Correct?
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. It's just surface level authority. It's not real authority. And it's not what I call authority marketing, meaning a blue strategy for creating authority.
No,
right.
It's faking. It's kind of faking that you have this.
Yeah.
It used to work. Nobody's impressed
Correct.
anymore. So folks, take that
Correct.
off. If you paid some money to have somebody list you all over the place, because some of these lower end PR people would just do it and say, well, you were on Bloomberg, Okay, let's talk about quality. See the background? You have all those people in the Valiant CEO.
Yeah.
Those are quality pieces.
Yeah.
And I'm not pitching you here. I'm just noticing, right? So those are quality pieces. So if people see that somebody is on the same cover as somebody like Kathy Ireland, okay, or I think you had Harrington on that once. I'm not sure.
Kevin Harrington, Elena Cardone, Grant Cardone,
Okay.
tons of,
So some of these people we actually think are legit. And the likes of, other people, not some of the ones you mentioned, we're impressed by. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
So the quality matters now of who you're surrounded by. Would you agree?
Correct. Oh, for sure. Look, when we had Neil Patel, one of the top marketers in the world, on the cover of our magazine, and here's what you have to understand, though. I learned this lesson a long time ago, and this is to your point. I agree with you that there are deeper quality big brands, but you got to remember, you want attention and visibility. So being positioned alongside mega brands. We had, for example, we did a deep article on Donald Trump and had him on the cover. Good or bad or indifferent. One lesson I learned from him when we were paying him to speak at our big real estate events is that when it comes to visibility, there's no good and bad. Now, you need to be careful, but when you're positioned alongside massive brands, what it does is it gets you in the spotlight, and then it's up to you to control the narrative. So one of the ways to build authority is be featured alongside other top tier experts. That might be speaking, it might be in podcasts, it might be on podcasts, it might be interviewing. I've interviewed people. This is a strategy you could use. You interview people that are very well known. I had a guy that was building an Allstate agency locally, and he's like, how do I build my agency? I go, listen, you got a podcast? No, get a podcast. Go interview the number one home builder, the number one Christmas light installer, the number one kitchen installer. You interview these big businesses, and not only do you get positioned alongside them, people are like, oh, that guy's interviewing the senator in his area, the number one realtor. Like, when you're positioned alongside people, not only do you get visibility, but you get their audience.
For sure.
Get alongside their audience. So it is about positioning alongside big visible brands to get visible. And then after you're visible, then it's up to you to control the narrative and make sure that people can connect with you. Because if they don't connect with you, you're just some, stage platform speaker person, that you're not going to be real. You're not going to get real authority. Because what is authority? It's credibility and trust. What does authority do? It increases your opportunities, but it increases your conversions, your lifetime value, and things like that. This is not about having a funnel that gets you a bunch of sales. It's about getting long-term client relationships, because you are the credible, trusted source in your area. And you get that credibility and trust by being alongside other credible trust.
You also get that credibility by being good at what you do.
100%. Yeah.
Because, when you were talking, I'm thinking about all these people that throw a lot of money at branding and PR.
Yes.
But, I call some of those brands facade businesses, because they just had some money. Okay. So we've got to not forget there's the delivery point that we haven't actually touched on yet, that you have to do an excellent job so that when people do follow you wherever you're going to go, and then they realize, this person actually, it's all just marketing.
Smoke and mirrors.
They're going to drop you like a hot potato. So let's talk a little bit about that. What about the credibility?
Yeah,
What about actual
I, I
credibility?
love I love that you say that because it's the difference between PR and marketing and authority.
Mm,
So when I say authority with brands, there's so many levels of it, right? You can try to get credibility with logos. That doesn't work.
mm,
But you can also get visible by being out there with press and PR and marketing and impressions and all things like this. But true authority comes from delivering. And so the only way you can deliver is to have really clearly what you do and to follow it up with real knowledge.
mm,
So you can't go manufacture authority because if you're not good at doing what you do, you're manufacturing a very short-term deal. When I say authority, I say what Dan Kennedy, all-time
mm,
best marketer, right? Dan Kennedy said, authority is a blueprint that is also an asset. So when you build authority, it's not just visibility.
mm,
It's an asset that will pay you over and over and over because like John, with your reputation right now for high net worth individuals, it's not because you just got visible or you have
mm,
stuff. You have a reputation for delivering,
mhm,
and that means you're an authority in what you do. Now, you can be an authority and be good at what you do, but the best kept secret, and that, in my opinion, is not true authority marketing. So people that are out there that don't have the context and connections you have, they might be really good at what they do,
mm,
but nobody knows who they are,
mm.
right? So you do have to have both if you want to be a true authority. They got to
For
have,
sure.
back it
Yeah.
up like you do, right?
Actually, the funny thing is that part of my business is sort of like the authority that I do have is for coaches and consultants to help them
Right.
high ticket. And I've realized that the longer it goes and the more results we do have and the more social proof that it is a lot easier. Folks, it gets easier when people just, yeah, I know nobody says to me, how do I know this is going to work? How do I know you're good at it? Because we have
Yeah.
so many testimonials. And I think that we've also got to touch on social proof, not fake social
Mm,
proof, actual evidence.
results.
Yes, that you do a good job because the more we get, there's no question because there's just so much proof. And that has been amazing for me because just the sales calls are so much easier because it's not will this work? It's more on the end of the buyer, can I do this? Can I afford it? And what am I going to do? It's never
Yeah.
now, well, how do we know you're good at this? Which was years ago, I would have that question. Well, how do I know this is going to work? And how do I know you're good at this? I'm like, well, I have some testimonials. Well, how do I know they're not fake? When you have
Yeah. Yeah.
hundreds of testimonials, nobody could say you could fake all that. There's just
Right.
impossible to fake
Right.
video and text testimonials. So doing a good job is the primary function, I would say. And I would say that all of this PR stuff, that should be secondary when you've already got some actual authority working with people. That's just the way I see it. Because I feel like some people are very premature in getting their name. They all want to get my name out there. And I say to them, but what have you done?
Yeah.
Have you had any clients? Well, no, but I want to get my name out there. How do you feel about that?
Well, I think people are at other ends of the spectrum. There's people that have all this visibility and no credibility and haven't gotten results, and then there's all these people. There are emeritus. I'm a good friend of mine, Bill Danko, who wrote The Millionaire Next Door, multiple New York
Mm,
Times bestseller, super experienced emeritus professor. There are people that have massive authority and results in what they do, but have no visibility.
mm,
So how do you take these two spectrums and put them together? But you just said it. The real linchpin is results because the secret behind a lot of these big CEO founders is that they've gotten enough results that results not only show social proof, but it also increases their confidence, which allows them to get more visible. But
yes.
results, actual results, will get you visible and it will get you actual authority and it'll build your confidence. So social proof, when you say social proof, a lot of times I think of social proof,
Mm,
which can be fake.
mm,
But what you said is right. Results. You
mm,
got to get actual results. And so how do you do both? Well, this is why I say this formula works is because you can get visibility while you're getting growth if you're doing a podcast or doing things that you do, but capturing it
mm,
and then putting it out there. So there's ways to not get distracted. The problem is most people start by like spending money and time and
mm,
energy on getting marketing and they don't have any proof, or they spend all their time working with clients and they don't get visible. I like to make sure you got to have both, right? If you
mhm.
do both and you can do it the same thing, you just do what you do and capture it.
Mhm.
and you'll get both. If you can put it out there and you can stack those wins, you get both, and your mindset increases along the way.
I agree with you. It's really a 1-2 thing because that's what I did. I just started working, and then there was some natural social proof that was
Yes.
happening, and then I got the,
Yeah.
actual proof, like, testimonials that we're building and building and building, okay? Um,
Yeah.
and then at one point, people were saying to me, I was already at $2 million, like, with no advertising, no photo shoots. I was telling people, "Don't go to my website." There was not a It was very organic. And I loved it because it was so simple. And people started saying to me, "Well, how come you just have selfies? How come at your level, you don't have photo shoots?" And I'd say to them, because I don't want to waste the time taking a whole day of my life off. I was an actress. I literally hate
Yeah.
photo shoots. It's just
Yeah.
painful because it just, you know, and I know people love that. For me, it's not fun because it's so much work to make it right. And I said, well, because actually, if I take a day off, I'm actually losing money. And I thought, okay, all right, I'll get more photos. Because I was in my car. It's a Tesla, so it has a really nice
It's like a
window.
moonroof. Yeah.
Yeah, and so if you lean back, the diffused light is beautiful lighting. So I would
Oh, that's
lean
funny.
back,
That's
and
awesome.
I realized, wow, this is great diffused lighting. So I take selfies, and they're like, "You're always in your car taking selfies," and I'm thinking, well, yeah, because I look better in there with no lighting. It's just great.
That's funny. And you weren't going out of your way to try to make an impression, right?
No, I was just taking selfies. People actually liked it, but there's always these people. Why don't you have blah blah blah? I mean, I had people saying to me, "Oh, if you make so much money, how come you don't live in this like ultra luxurious place?" And I thought, well, my place is pretty nice, but why? Because I'm a simple person. I didn't just make some money and immediately buy a Lambo and try to show people. Those are, it's very strange what people say to you. And I just thought, well,
Yeah.
we live in a very nice place. But anyway, the point is, finally, I did get the photo shoot. Okay, because I did need, and it was great because I've needed those professional shots for publications, and
Oh, yeah.
we do need that, folks. You do need at some point to get a professional photo shoot, but it's not at the very beginning, because when you take those photos and there's nothing behind it, people like me that have spidey sense can
Oh,
see
nowadays they get it.
it's empty.
Plus, they know.
Yeah, I can tell, right? A lot of
Yeah.
people are maybe fooled by it, but some people like me and you, right? You can look at a photo and you can see if
Cut
that
right through
person's
it.
successful. Am I right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, because and it goes back to the point of why are you doing it, right? So
Yeah.
when you're trying to grow and build and start and build a legacy or revenue, anything, we worry too much about impressing people.
Mm,
When you and then when you get the money and revenue, you don't care so much, but then you realize that you would have gotten that anyway if you just focused on results. And
exactly.
so you got to go back to why you're doing things, and people waste a lot of time and money and energy trying to look good
Hmm.
and sound good when the results would speak for themselves.
Right. And also, I think it's a really icky feeling if it's like a vacuum. I find that like a vacuum. There's this shell of looking good
Yeah.
or being on
Yeah.
Insta. You can't feel good about yourself if you know you're kind of a hashtag fake, right? It's sort of
Yeah.
hashtag fake. So I actually have this hashtag called hashtag unfake. So we want to be,
The real thing.
yeah, I don't actually use it. It's my joke. It's like we want to be hashtag unfake, right? Because also as human beings, I didn't want overblown PR because I wouldn't have felt good about that. I would have felt like, we're kind of overblowing where I actually am energetically. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Well, look, 10 years ago, taking pictures of you climbing out of a Lamborghini might have gotten you customers, right? But nowadays,
Mhm.
people are like, everybody knows you can go get a Lamborghini and rent
Right,
it and jump out of it, right?
right.
It's not about branding and PR.
Mm,
It's about credible. Look, the other thing is that's also short term, right? If you want long term, you got to deliver results,
mm,
and you actually have to be more of an authentic, authority.
mm,
And so it speaks to your intent of what you're trying to do. Look, if you want to just look good and sound good and be
mm,
whatever, great. But you're not going to be long-term, successful, wealth-generating machine, right?
right.
You have to build from the right way. Now, I do believe the marketplace is conducive. That's why we're so focused now on authority.
Mm,
That if you wanted to take visibility and credibility and results and put it together, it's building authority. It's a blueprint to build authority.
mm,
So it is possible to do that now with automation, so you can
mhm.
have a little bit of both, where before you had to take a lot of time and energy to
Yeah,
do it. But I do think you're absolutely right. You've got to have the right intention behind what you're doing and how you're doing it, and it will pay back. It will.
yeah, for sure. Okay, so tell me, How did you get involved in all this? Let's get a little bit into your story now. Where, because you're pretty successful at what you do. What got you started in all this, and what's your journey?
Look, I have 8 kids and 6 grandkids now. I feel like I've been around the block a few times. I had twins right out of high school, and I was a salesperson.
Wow.
I wanted to make money and live the life, and I worked real hard, and I got that. Like I got the success that everybody would call success, but I really wasn't fulfilled. And so I started thinking, well, if I own the company and I leverage it, then I can live the lifestyle I want, and then I'll have it. So I started living the life. I was the owner, and I started working, and that's when I was doing events around the world with T. Harv Eker and Donald
Mm,
Trump, Robert Kiyosaki in sales and marketing. But now I was owning the company, and it wasn't until I kind of I had gone through a divorce. I was trying to figure out what I wanted. Why was I not just creating this life I wanted?
mm,
And that quote from Jim Rohn really hit me, where he said, "Success is not to be pursued; is to be attracted by the person that you become." I went into this personal development phase, and I realized that my inner game creates my outer game, my inner world. I don't need superficial confidence like you were talking about a
mm,
minute ago. I needed internal confidence
mm,
and stacking wins. And I was having success. Don't get me wrong. Everything I was doing was getting me what I wanted. Um, but over the course of time and producing and creating results, I finally realized that I just wanted to create a lifestyle,
mm,
mind, body, money business that created the life I wanted. And it was so funny because then so much more came my way when I stopped pushing and trying to
mm,
impress and all that. And so, I met some guys that owned a dozen magazines, Valiant CEO being one of them,
mhm,
multiple podcasts. I started my podcast, The Daily Mastermind, strictly as a daily ritual. I
mm,
just wanted something daily I could do for 10 minutes for inspiration, motivation, and education for an entrepreneur and
mhm,
CEO. And it turned into over time, 1,200 episodes. And it all of a sudden started attracting things. I got asked to be the co-host of the Franklin Planner podcast. I got asked to speak,
mm,
and I wasn't even trying, but I thought, wait a minute, this little engine of this podcast thing, this could actually turn into more. And that's why we started Authority Media Network, where it's like this network of stuff.
mhm,
But it all started from my need to really create a better life.
mm,
Because I was trying so hard, pushing so hard, having success, starting over. And eventually I got to the point where I realized I didn't have to try so hard.
mm.
You take action, allow a little bit of space for attraction, and you can kind of get in there. And once I got my inner outer world kind of together, it took on a new flavor. Now I'm a marketer. I'm a business person, so I don't want to say I got too far down into just personal
Of
growth, but
course.
that's what made it happen for me, to be honest.
For
So
sure, I love that, but there is a crisis now going on where people are understanding money can make you happier, let's be real. Not having
for sure,
anxiety about paying the rent or where your kids are gonna, there is a happiness with having more money. However, at a point, and I work with the high net worth individuals on this, there is a point where people feel an emptiness of, is this
yeah,
it? Is this as good as it gets? Right? And what you just said was beautiful because you knew how to be successful and make money, all right? But then, what about the alignment between what you want and the fulfillment? Like, really, I
yeah.
think they did some studies on this that the biggest fear for high achievers and people that are at a certain level, it's not fulfilling our full potential. That's the
It's
fear.
back to the 6 core human needs that, Robbins talks about. You need fulfillment. And
Mm,
it took me a long time to realize that success and happiness are mutually exclusive.
mm,
They're not the same thing.
mm,
Happiness and success, all we're really looking for is the emotions all the success give us anyway. And
right,
you can do that right now, right?
right.
You all know times you've done that. But when I disconnected the success and happiness and realized it wasn't the exact same thing,
Hmm.
you're right. It's fulfillment.
Mm,
Ultimately, that's why an athlete can win the Super Bowl and the next day be depressed.
yes,
It's why someone can win the lottery and commit suicide. It's
yeah,
because they're not the same thing.
yeah,
And it takes a long. It's hard to think that way when you're trying to make money and grow,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
Because that is important.
yeah.
But the irony is both will come to you if you learn that
It's true.
principle.
Yeah, I love that. So, George, before we wrap up here, what's a mindset or a philosophy that you live by that you'd like to share with everybody before we part?
I'm going to go right to the top of over all the years that I've been working with all these thought leaders and stuff. I developed kind of this 12 prosperity pillars that I use as a daily affirmation for myself. And the number
Mhm.
one there is I create my life.
Mm,
And so that idea that I create, the second one is I take personal responsibility. When I subscribe to the idea that I create my life, then I can live with more uncertainty. I
Mm,
can realize that I am the one who's gonna, so things don't affect me as much. And
mm,
it's just a decision. It's not something you have to believe. You could just decide, I create my life.
mm,
And when you do, you realize that, if it's gonna be, it's up to you. And
mm,
when you do that, it empowers you a little bit more to realize that you're the one who can make it happen or not make it happen. You're the one who gets to decide if you're trying to just impress everybody else and live their
mhm,
life or live your life. And so I create my life is really that number one pillar that I
mm.
subscribe
I
to.
love
So
that. And you said a couple times about impressing people, and every time somebody says that, I'm literally thinking, why would I want to do that? I spent years
social media makes it hard.
my younger life, I was trying to impress people, not to a terrible degree, but we're all, and now I'm just thinking,
Sure.
why would that even be attractive to anybody to impress other people? I literally,
Well, you're at a
that's
different level.
where I
You're
am.
at
I
a
was like,
different level
yeah.
though. Yeah.
So listen, this has been amazing. Thank you so much. Thank you for listening.
Yeah.
And we will see you on the next show. You're listening to the Business Wealth Impact Podcast, your source for empowering information and cutting-edge ideas from the world's top minds. I'm your host, Jeanne Amlour, founder of seven-figure coaching company, Jeanne Amlour International. Join me on a journey to unleash your potential and create your highest success. Welcome to Business Wealth Impact.